If you're running your business and it's profitable, and every day you wake up hating your life, is that surviving to you? And for most people, I don't think it is. So you have like a massive advantage as a small business. But if you try to do what all the big players are doing, then you're going to lose because you're trying to play the same game. You're trying to compete against someone you can't beat. It's easy to upgrade to first class, but people don't like to downgrade back. So what happens, you upgrade your lifestyle more and more and more when things are great, but when things stop being great, the lifestyle doesn't slow down along with it. And you're just doing the same thing over and over and over again. And the wins stop feeling like wins, but the losses feel as bad as ever.
All right, welcome back to Living That Life podcast. Today, cross-global podcast. We got Alexander Concepcion. This dude's writing a book called Survival First: The Rebel Entrepreneur's Guide to Risk, Riches, and Immortality. He's also a real estate entrepreneur in Austin, Texas. And we're going to talk about some deep stuff today, some very interesting stuff we've been talking about. And feel free to check out his website, Survival First Book, and check out the book. And Alexander, welcome.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
So, you got a lot going on. You got this book going on. And so, tell me about the book. Like, let's go over what it's about. Kind of where would you like to dive in of kind of the story of the book?
Yeah, so I was running my real estate business during the pandemic, and the pandemic hits, and I lose all of my clients in a few weeks, and I start freaking out because no clients means no money, no business, and I lose all the freedom and sovereignty and control over my time that I fought for up to that point. And then a few more months passes, and then my business blows up. And 2020 winds up becoming the best year I've ever had as an entrepreneur. And it just made me ask the simple question, what's the difference between my business, which is doing great, and other businesses that are crashing all around me? And it's just a very simple question of, why do businesses die? And it became this question that has dominoed into an almost 4-year journey of exploration and thinking and writing that's culminating into this book.
Okay, nice. I'm super curious to hear what your findings and takeaways are. You know, my audience is entrepreneurial, so let's dive into the meat of the book.
Yeah, the overly simplistic takeaway to the answer of why do businesses die is because people let them. Entrepreneurs let their businesses die. It's the choices they make that don't turn out well that lead to them. It's not failing. Businesses don't fail. It's not school where it's like pass or fail grade. That's binary and arbitrary. Businesses die when entrepreneurs let them die. They just stop doing it. And even entrepreneurs that they have a business and they shut the business down, and the next day, month, year, whatever, and they're like, let's do it again. Let's do another business. The entrepreneur is alive. And that's really what the most important thing is. Because it's not the business that really matters. Like, yeah, it's important. And we're here to talk about business. But below the surface, the thing that matters is the entrepreneur inside of us, the one who creates, who solves problems, who brings value to the world. It's about that version of ourselves surviving. So the main character of this book thematically is risk. And risk is ultimately about understanding what makes you not want to make that choice to be an entrepreneur anymore. And that's why survival, to me, it's a choice. You're choosing to do this podcast. You're choosing to run your business. You're choosing to do all the things you're doing. And risk is about what makes you not want to make that choice. And that's ultimately what I'm exploring.
So all of our, I think about in my entrepreneurial journey, it's like, I think back, like, was I born to be an entrepreneur? Like, is this like, was this like my personality type? Because I look back and I'm like, man, there's no way I could see myself doing like a 9 to 5 or not doing my own thing, or, or not just doing me, like, going on the alternative path, not just entrepreneurially, but living a complete nomad lifestyle. And I think back and I was like, was it just like, was I born with it, or was it learned? And who knows? But
Yeah.
so Rebel's Guide to Risk, Riches, and Immortality. What is the theme of immortality? Where does that come in, or what do you mean by that?
Yeah. I actually began to muse on that idea more after I picked that for the title. And then you think about, like, what does immortality mean? And how does one create immortality? And my answer became beauty. Because beauty is immortal. People go to mountains and the beach and look at fine art and listen to great music because it's beautiful. It doesn't need explanation. It's the same things people have found beautiful for thousands of years are the things we still find beautiful. And there's a reason we still read old masters like Socrates or Shakespeare or all the Renaissance artists, is because they made something beautiful. And because they made something beautiful, their soul, their reputation is immortal. And as a thought exercise, if Beethoven is resurrected today, how long would it take for Beethoven to sell out Madison Square Garden? I think about 1 minute. The guy hasn't been around for hundreds of years, but his reputation is immortal. So that guy, yeah, he created something, this body of work that's beautiful, that's eternal, that's always going to be around. And it ties into your reputation and what you create and what you bring to the world. Because a lot of entrepreneurs who have rock solid reputations, say Warren Buffett, if Warren Buffett wakes up with zero money, zero assets tomorrow, how long will it take for him to become a billionaire again? I'll say 5 minutes. He sends a text, hey, someone send me $1 billion. People are going to send him billions of dollars, no questions asked, because of his reputation. So his reputation makes him immortal. He can't lose. there's no going bust for him.
Creating is something I think about all the time, and like I'm kind of like a futurist, you could say, and like I think about this, like the topic of living forever. Okay, we're probably not going to live forever via, in our bodies technologically, but what we create, that's what lives forever. And so I always think about this, like before I die, basically I want to create my masterpiece, and like that is like all I want. Like that's the most important thing, because that's the one thing that lives forever. That one masterpiece, whether it be a book or music or a movie or whatever. And so like
Mhm.
that's interesting, because it's something I think about all the time. So there's that, the thing that you create, but there's also what you're talking about, your reputation, like overall. And so that, like, or legacy.
Mhm.
So yeah, that's one of those things that us entrepreneurs think about all the time. And I think about, does that necessarily need to be my legacy, or my masterpiece need to be part of the business that I operate, or could it just be my memoir book, or something completely separate to the companies I'm known from? Like what
Mhm.
might last, in terms of my legacy, might not have to do anything about what I made money from. Interesting thing.
Mhm. That's been my answer, where the way I make money, I'm a better creator and a writer than I am an entrepreneur. No one is going to look at my business numbers and be that impressed, because they're not that impressive. Like, they're good enough to give me a pretty reasonably good standard of living. And I know from the experience of working on this book for almost 4 years, I don't know if it's possible for me to be more energetically or spiritually connected to anything than this work that I've put my soul into, and the satisfaction and the joy and fulfillment of giving all of my energy into something that, yeah, this is, yeah, there's going to be marketing benefits, there's going to be professional benefits, there's, I'll make money somehow, but the reward of putting my soul into something that I believe I created something beautiful is the coolest thing I've ever done. And it is this borderline spiritual experience, in the literal sense of infusing spirit into something. That's why I'm so connected to this. And it doesn't feel like this book is business card thing that's just trying to like just drum up more business or make more money. To me, like, even though this goes in the business category of book, and it does have a lot of practical, on the ground business advice, or not advice, just alternate ways of looking at a business that I think is distinct and unique and useful and practical. But ultimately, to me, this is an artwork. And the the piece I connected to most in this book was Dante's Divine Comedy, oddly
Mm.
enough. Um, because what that story is, in a very overly simplistic way, is Virgil the poet guiding Dante the hero through the rings of hell. So that's Dante's Inferno. through and into purgatory, so ultimately Dante could reach paradise. And that's largely, like, as grandiose as it may seem, the path of what this book is. That's the journey. It's guiding the reader through the darkness of entrepreneurship, because most of us don't make it. That's just the numbers, the statistics. They're not good. And you just don't hear their stories. Like, no one goes on a podcast tour when their business goes bankrupt, or when they burn out, or when everything collapses. They disappear, and their stories go dark. So there's this crazy survivor's bias that we're all exposed to. And so much of the information and advice and wisdom is kind of just empty because of that survivor's bias. And there's so many people who take the advice of crush it, or work harder, or do more of this and do more of that. Some of them make it, a lot of them don't, but you just don't hear about them. And I want to create a path for entrepreneurs to look at the darkness, look at risk, not to only look at risk, not to only look at survival, but as a way of looking at the light and opportunity. Because I think the best way to understand opportunity and all the upsides that we're all chasing for, paradise, if you will, is to first understand the darkness that most of us deal with.
And so you got all these chapters in the book. You get cat businesses versus dog businesses. When do you get paid? The vampire's death spiral, purging fatty expenses. You want to just kind of dive into, pick one of those and dive in, or did you have any in mind and kind of talk about some of these concepts?
Yeah, so the cat-like and dog-like business, I think, is interesting, specifically for your world, because you have a business that you can kind of operate wherever. That's why you're in Thailand and I'm in Texas, because you designed your business in such a way that lets you do that. And I would call that a cat-like business, because cats don't care about you. You can kind of just go off and be here, be there, whatever. And the cat's like, cool, you do your thing, I'm fine. I'm going to do my thing, and if you're around, cool. If you're not, whatever. A dog-like business is the exact opposite. It's like you are running your own food truck or your pad thai food stall. You got to be there. Because if you're not there, the business just collapses without you. It's like you can't go on vacation and just leave your dog at home, because you'll be a terrible owner. And the dog's just not going to make it. So the more cat-like your business is, the less of a risk you are to your business. Because that part of the book is all about how you, the business owner, is the biggest risk to your business. And if your business can't run well without you, then that means you are more of a liability to your business. So the more cat-like your business is, the more resilient it is without you. So that becomes one of the frames, one of the questions is, how can you make your business less you dependent? And there's like a few ways to stress test that. Like there's the location stress test, in which in your case, it's your entire lifestyle, is proving that you can run your business from wherever you feel like it and things work great. But then there's another stress test, like the time stress test. How long can you just shut down the laptop, ignore everything before you start getting anxious about things starting to fall apart? So the shorter that window is, the bigger problem you have. Because maybe you could be anywhere you want, but if you can't step away from your business, time-wise, if you can't just close up shop and take a 2-3 week vacation, whatever it is, maybe it's 2 or 3 days, you have a major problem. Because it's not the vacations that you plan ahead, that you know you're going to take. It's those random life disasters that come out of nowhere, that take you out of your business. And then once that happens, it's this calamity. Because it's not just your personal emergency happening, it's your personal emergency is dominoing into your business. So it's this double calamity happening at the same time. And the way to invert it, because again, we're not just focusing on risk. What are the upsides of making your business more cat-like, less you-dependent? Is you get to spend more time abroad. You get to take longer vacations. You get to experience less stress of not working. So when you're taking these actions to make your business less you-dependent, you're doing it for both reasons. You're doing it because the upside is really high, but the cost of not doing it is also really high.
Mm-hmm. That brings up the unexpected calamity that you may have to take back from your business. Okay, that's one thing. But that also made me think of, it's also the unexpected vacation that you can take. And I talk about that a lot in my videos. Is in my life, I've taken tons of 4-day weekends because, hey, Riley, want to go to this thing? Hey, Riley, want to go to this festival? Hey, there's a thing going on. Those types of things where you can say yes to the fun things on a whim, fine.
Mm-hmm.
Those are where it's at. It's like, yes, I'm flexible. Like anytime I can go say yes to these things and stuff. So I think a lot of people want that as well. You know, the 2-week test is great, you know, but maybe you can like plan that out a little bit better. But anyway, I think about that a lot as well.
Yeah, the exercise I describe is kind of like microdosing your business, like away from you, where like you engineer these stress tests. You go on vacation and you don't take your laptop for like a weekend. See how that works. If things are fine, great, let's do a little bit more. Let's do a week or 2 weeks or a month. And what do you have to do to make that possible? Because everything you wind up doing just winds up making your business more resilient, effective, efficient. So all the upsides they're massive. But you also just have to understand the downside of not doing it. And it's connecting to both realities. Like, yeah, darkness is there, but yeah, there's the light of all this opportunity and things you could say yes to. And it's how do you both logically and viscerally connect to both? Because that's the energy source that drives all the action. And everything just goes back to energy. Energy is why we do all the stuff. And that's why, to me, risk is primarily emotional. It's not something that shows up on spreadsheets. It's not something you calculate with numbers. Like, just as a thought exercise, if you're running your business and it's profitable, and every day you wake up hating your life, is that something you would tolerate? Because the money is there. let's say you have time, but if you're emotionally a disaster, is that surviving to you? And for most people, I don't think it is.
Mm-hmm. You were talking about thinking about your business as uh, being in a relationship with your business. And since our last call, like I've never heard of that one before, but it's a really good one because it's like, yeah, we're in a relationship with our business, and it's trying to design things to have that in the most positive uh, relationship possible. And there's all these complicated things. So yeah, it's a good one to talk about.
Yeah. Yeah. So that part of the book, it's the most important part of the book. It's you are the biggest risk to your business. But the inverse is also true. Your biggest your the biggest risk to you, the entrepreneur, which is what the thing we're solving for to survive, the biggest risk to that is your business. And that's where I make the parallel that you're in a relationship with your business. And all a relationship is an exchange of energy. The same way you exchange energy with friends, lovers, with fitness, with whatever. Everything is some kind of relationship. And the same way you don't want to be in a bad relationship with your friends or your partners or your spouse, whoever it is, you don't want to be in a bad relationship with your business. And to me, there's a lot of like metrics in business. And to me, there's only one, and that's return on energy. Everything else is a subsection of that. And a positive relationship is a positive return on energy, and a negative relationship is a negative return on energy. It goes back to, yeah, sure, you're profitable, great, but you hate your life. To me, that's a negative return on energy. That's a bad relationship. And the elephant in the room, the entrepreneurial world, the silent crisis I believe exists is there's probably a lot of entrepreneurs who on the surface everything is fine, but they secretly hate their businesses. And they just don't want to do it anymore. They're tired of it, but they don't know how to get out. It's like being in a marriage that's not working well, or a relationship that's, to me, it's not the really awful toxic relationships that are the dangerous ones, because the drama of them makes them obvious. It's that 7 out of 10 relationship, the boring one. It's the one that you don't want to end it because it's not that bad, but it doesn't like get you excited at all. And inside it's this quiet death by passive acceptance. Like, yeah, sure, your business may be alive and doing its thing, but you, the entrepreneur, the brilliant problem solver, the creator, that version of you slowly dies in the background. And are you going to do the best work of your life if the best version of yourself is dead? And no, it's not. And it's that boring relationship that lasts way longer than it should. It's the hardest to recognize. And it's the hardest to untangle yourself out of. Because it's fine, everything is good. But deep down, you know it's not. So now what? And the quote that I use towards the end of that is from Neil Strauss, the guy who wrote The Game and The Truth. Uh, the way he phrased it in a beautiful way. It's a failed relationship is not one that ends, but one that lasts longer than it should. And I think a lot of entrepreneurs need permission to shut down their businesses, which may seem counterintuitive in the world where everyone is trying to show you how to scale your business, how to grow. It's all great, it's nice. But that's like, maybe you shouldn't marry that person.
Yeah.
Maybe the best version of your relationship with so and so is like just really good friends with benefits. And that's the best expression of that relationship. And maybe that shouldn't become a life partner. And it's giving permission to entrepreneurs to be like, yeah, I like my business just the way it is. It's perfect. And I don't need to grow it. Or you know what, maybe I should shut it down. Because this relationship is keeping me from creating the relationship I want. So yeah, like the irony of this book, Survival First, is that maybe you should end your business. Because if it's not about the business surviving, it's about you surviving. And if your business has to go for you, the entrepreneur, to survive, then so be it. Then you get to do maybe the thing you're supposed to do.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's like a relationship book, but relationship with your business, because it's so many similarities. That's a great analogy. And but you know, you can sell your business in a lot of cases too. You know, you don't need to necessarily, just shut it down. You can sell it. And it's a question that I'm asking myself about my Amazon agency. Okay, what's the situation there? If I do that, what's the next play? Big decision, kind of like how a divorce would be like a huge decision. But there's so many factors at play.
Where this analogy breaks is actually in the positive, optimistic sense, because you can't sell your girlfriend. You can sell your business. Like, you could end your relationship with your business and make a ton of money. You can't do that with a person.
No.
And you just have more flexibility with your business because you own it and you control it. So I know for my business, like, I've been running my business for like 6 years, and it's simple, it's easy, and then I realize that I'm bored. So I'm processing this right now. So I'm going through this experience myself. And since my business is so like me dependent, I don't know how sellable it is. Maybe that's more for me to explore. But right now, what I'm doing in real time is I'm working to improve my relationship to the business. And to me, that means offloading more work, automating more, and just spending less time on it. And for me, the upside is I have more energy to work on the book, to do what I need to do to bring this thing to the world in the way that I need it to show up. So changing my relationship to the business is giving me more money, time, and energy to do this other stuff that I know I need to do. Because this book, that's where I'm going to capture the real upside of reality. I don't know what's going to happen. But I know that's the thing that's going to take me to where I need to go. So I consciously made the decision, no, I'm not going to grow this business because like my energy for it's just kind of waning. And I need to find a new way to entrepreneurially engage with reality, find something else that lights my fire. And I don't know what that is. I have some ideas, but
Mm-hmm.
when I imagine myself doing the same thing over and over and over again, like 5 years from now, I'm like, ooh, I do not
Yeah.
want to do that. I'm
Yeah.
kind of already over this, and it's time for me to move on. Which is, I mean, the question is important to ask. I don't know what the answer is. I'm trying to find the answer. But I think just giving people the right questions so they can find their own answers is part of what makes this book distinct.
Mm-hmm.
Because I'm never telling you what to do. I don't like prescriptive advice, business books. I don't think they're useful. I think questions are useful because the right questions, create the right frames with which to organize reality and make better sense of this overwhelming amount of information that we all have. Because we all have this, we're all getting, oh my god, just overwhelmed with just remixes of the same advice over and over and over again. And it's not really working anymore. But a good question is something that you could just keep asking over and over and over again. And then you can come up with your own solutions that map to your reality rather than just trying to copy paste someone else's worldview that doesn't map to your reality.
Mm-hmm. Right. Yeah. It's like a good one is the 5 years. Like, what would be my day to day? What would be my excitement
Mm-hmm.
level if I were doing the same thing, for the next 5 years?
Yeah.
And yeah, it's a
Mm-hmm.
good question. In my business, I'm in a similar thing. Like, I've been running my Amazon agency for 5 years, and I'm just like, I'm just kind of bored, aka not as excited. And so I always think back to like Tim Ferriss' 4 Hour Work Week when I read that 10 years ago, and he talks about happiness is actually excitement. Everything is excitement. It's all we're pursuing. And so, you could tie that to energy, whatever it is. And so
Yeah.
all we're really asking is for, what you said lights our fire, excites us. And he's like, just pursue what excites you. Like, that's the ultimate thing.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, a frame that I'm coming to adopt right now, it's even removing the frame of business and instead replacing that frame with profitable obsession. Because a profitable obsession is more of a reflection of who you are. And a business could just be a way of making money. Like, yeah, there's plenty of ways to make money, but do they really excite you? Whereas an obsession, it's something that something inside you guides you to, and you have to do it. You can't not do it. I know for me, writing is that. It's not even profitable yet, but I know that I have to write. I love it. I'm good at it. and I just have to do it. I can try to logically explain it, but it's not going to be very useful. All I know is I have to do this. And I don't know where it's going to take me. But in a weird way, this journey is this path to faith. Like, I don't know what's going to happen after this book launch. I don't know if 10 copies sell or 100 or whatever it may be. But I've been learning to have faith in the reality that if I show up in the way I need to show up, do the work I need to do, and just go all in to my own energy, then things are going to unfold in beautiful and unpredictable ways. So rather than the 10 years from now, imagine the perfect day ever and reverse engineer to the future, and what do you have to do to get that? I think the exact opposite approach makes sense to me. Is I don't know what the master plan is. I don't know what the master vision looks like. But the master strategy is me just showing up in the way I need to show up and allowing reality to unfold in beautifully mysterious ways.
I like that. And writing, they say, is the ultimate form of blah blah blah. I forget it, but it's of learning, expression, teaching. But anyway, it's that, and then now as authors we have this whole podcast medium that authors do nowadays, which is like so tied to like writing a book, obviously, because it's just long form speaking, but like you're kind of, it's not scripted, you're kind of flowing speaking. But anyways, it's an interesting time that we live in to be a creator, author. Any other kind of chapters in the book that you had in mind that you might want to touch on specifically?
Yeah. So, one chapter I love ranting about is my competitive risk chapter. So that falls within the internal risk, the parts of risk that you do control. And I think one of the more radical chapters, if you will, is about the idea of competition. And my stance is that competition isn't real in business. It's real in sports. It's real in games. Like, say, take football. You have one team versus another team. Whoever scores more points wins the trophy. Great. Same thing applies in all competitions, baseball, chess. And in business, when are you playing the same game directly against another business? When do you give a sales pitch to another company to see who wins the customer? Never. At no point ever in business do you play the same game directly against another business. Because in competition, what happens is you play a game and the winner of the game gets the trophy, the prize, whatever it is. Whereas in business, it's, take this podcast. Whoever is listening to this is choosing to listen to this, which means they're choosing not to do everything else they could. They're choosing this. So the risk to you, the podcaster, is that that person chooses something that's not listening to this. Therefore, the frame is not competition, but replacement risk. So the risk isn't that you're beaten in a competition, the risk is that you're replaced. So then that creates another frame of how replaceable are you? And everyone's on a spectrum between irreplaceable and totally replaceable. And the vast majority of businesses skew very close to the infinitely replaceable, the commodity side of that spectrum. And when you're a commodity, the only thing that distinguishes you is price, which means you have no other distinguishing factor. You're like gas at a gas station. No one cares. People just care about price and maybe convenience. And if you're trying to play that game, you're dead. Walmart can play that game. Amazon could play the game because they have economies of scale. They can make more and sell at cheaper prices than you can. So if you're trying to play the price game, you're already dead and you don't even know it. So a lot of people they're like zombie businesses. They're going through the motions of being in business, but they're not in control of their businesses anymore. What they are in reality are freelancers to a market they don't control. So a lot of people have, without realizing it, lost control of their businesses. That's one of the most critical risks to think about, is just losing control of your business. So the inversion of that is, how do you become irreplaceable? How do you become a monopoly? And that's where all the upside is. Because once you're a monopoly, you're the only one. You're irreplaceable. People want to choose you. And then that creates the question, how do you monopolize? And I think it's pretty simple questions. What can or will you do that nobody else can or will do? And one simple way of thinking about it, it's the difference between A and the. So it's like a coffee shop, a bar, a restaurant, or versus the best cocktail bar, the best Thai restaurant, the sexiest coffee shop. When you're you're a monopoly. When you're you're a commodity. And the more ways you could, what I call stack monopolies, the less replaceable you become, and the safer your position is, and the more enjoyable business becomes. Because a lot of people out here are just struggling to stand out. Because what most people are doing is, because they're thinking about competition, what they inadvertently do is copycat everyone. That's why most businesses just look like exact copies of similar businesses. And they're all just struggling and struggling, trying to stand out, and simultaneously failing to ask themselves, if I'm doing what everyone else is doing, why would anyone choose me? And the answer is, they won't, and you're going to quit.
Mm-hmm. This makes me think of both sides of my business. So the physical product side, because like there's this whole like Amazon FBA, make money on Amazon, the private label, kind of world. And like I have to say this all the time. Well, I don't teach like private label stuff anymore. We just, manage companies on Amazon. But still people ask me like, if I how's the Amazon marketplace? Like, is it too saturated? Is it too, and I mean, even when I had like a private label course back in 2016, it was always ask this question. Picture yourself as a shopper. You're scrolling down page 1 and there's like 20, 30, 40 different options for this type of thing. Ask yourself as a shopper, why would I choose you? There needs to be a reason for them to choose you. And they're like, oh yeah. And like, that's the best question that I told my students, because it's getting at, you need to develop a product to have unique features to make it better in even some little small sort of way. That's it. So that's like the physical product world. And I think of that about the agency world as well. Like people just copying each other's websites and like even stuff like that. But it also made me think about what I'm kind of going through and doing in my agency is I'm kind of leaning into, we are the agency to launch your supplement brand. So find a smaller niche that we can be and I've started doing videos on YouTube about here's how to launch your supplement brand and grow it on Amazon. And it's already working. Like we're getting contacted by all these supplement companies. And so it's like, you can, as a, I guess talking a business strategy here, instead of being just one of them, find a smaller segment and you can be for that, niche.
Mm-hmm. I know I haven't done business on Amazon, but I know one thing that would give me a lot of anxiety personally is platform dependency, or what I call like marketing channel risk. Is because when say like 100% of the marketing of the access to the market just comes from one company, Amazon, that's a hyper concentration of risk on one channel. So it's this position where whenever Amazon makes a move, makes a decision, it has a massive impact on what everyone is doing. And the leverage that Amazon effectively has, maybe they don't use it against the industry now, but they can kind of do whatever they want. And they have the numbers. They know, they have the algorithms. They know how much money people make. They know the returns on ad spend. And the way I see it, it's like playing poker against someone who could see everyone's hand. And that would give me a lot of anxiety. Because even though something could be profitable, it's the fragility of it. And knowing that they can just shut down an account, kind of, even by accident, and just flick the switch and your revenues just dry up for however long they feel like it. That would be very uncomfortable for me.
Yeah. It's this whole, dealing with Amazon and like, is this whole love-hate relationship. It's so weird. And then we're like my agency is, we're like the intermediary between that relationship, the company, and then there's us in the middle. We're managing your Amazon, and then Amazon, it's like, like one of the things with Amazon, it's like notoriously the seller support sucks. And so it's like, it's this weird dynamic. It's like everyone like hates Amazon, but it's like, fuck, we gotta play their game. Like if shoppers are there, it's this weird, and I guess it's kind of the same with all of these big tech platforms like Google, Facebook, Meta, whatever. It's like they have these kind of monopolies in these day and ages. And so it's interesting.
In that chapter, marketing risk, I call it crackhead marketing. Because
nice.
The seduction of these platforms They're like, it's quick hits, instant market reach, instant access, and the capacity for growth is so fast and immediate that it's seductive to like put all the eggs in that basket. But like, if they cut off the supply to the market, then you're like, uh-oh, now what? I need to get it back. I need to get it back. And to me, it's the difference between rented channels and owned channels. So a rented channel is all the tech platforms, Amazon, Facebook, Google, whatever. Insert your favorite one. Those are rented platforms, and they're going to be powerful. They're going to be useful, and yeah, they have a role in business. But the inverse is an owned platform. And your owned platform is like your own website, the brand that you control. Maybe it's your audience, it's your email newsletter. It's the your access to your market that can't be taken away. You own that access. And the more you own your access to your market, the more you own your business. Because if you don't own your access to your market, then you're more of a freelancer than a business owner. And because they are in control of the business, they can just squash you without caring, because they don't. Why should they? They're massive. If destroying all these small businesses is what's best for their shareholders, they're going to do it. So this is the principle that I call transfer risk, is how you adopt the risk of other parties, in this case Amazon or other platforms. Their risks and their upsides become your risks and upsides. And yeah, it's just the hyper concentration of it. Like, of course people are going to have this toxic love-hate relationship because they need it. And they don't want to need it, but they need it. And to me, the long-term sort of path to survival, the sustainable one, is by creating your own channels that can't be taken away, that can't be shut down, because you own it. It's yours. You do what you want with it. But the ultimate owned channel, and this ties back into replacement risk, is reputation. Because it's your reputation that creates word of mouth. That's the ultimate marketing channel that can't be shut down, that can't be canceled or deranked. And you own your reputation. It can't be taken away from you, it can't be copied. So that goes back to the immortality question. It's reputation gives you permanent access to your market. It makes you less replaceable, hopefully irreplaceable, and in the bigger scheme, it makes you immortal.
Yeah, your name. What does your name mean? Like, what reputation? What is that? It's when when people hear your name, like, what do they think about? The perception of you, like really. And yeah, that
to me, it's the reputation. It's the relationship you have with the people you do business with. And if it's a good relationship, then great. You have a good reputation. Mm-hmm. So the business I profile in that chapter is this guy named Jesse Cole, who runs the Savannah Bananas. It's this little sub minor. Yeah, that guy. So even though his business, baseball, is a literal competition, he's a monopoly. The Bananas are a monopoly. There's nothing else like them. They are the funnest thing in town. They are the only banana themed baseball team. And it's the relationship that the team has with the community that makes them invincible. And one thing with Jesse specifically that I think makes him really interesting is the way he looks. He doesn't look at what other people in baseball are doing. Because if he was looking at what everyone else was doing, then he would copycat them and do the exact same thing, and he'd have some other Wildcats or Bulldogs team that no one cares about. What he does is he looks outside the baseball industry. And in his specific case, he looked at people like P.T. Barnum and Walt Disney, circus entertainers. And those were his inspirations. And what he effectively created was this baseball circus. And there's nothing like it. So he effectively created the only baseball circus that people love. And it's why they were a sports team in 2020 and they were profitable, which is nuts. And like they lost their major money making season and they still somehow profited in 2020 when sports were canceled.
Mm-hmm.
And the answer why is reputation.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Part
you
of
really
the
got to
reason
be.
there's a little bit more than that, but yeah, by and large, it's the reputation. And it's looking outside your industry to asking yourself, what's something distinct that I can bring to the table? What's no one else doing? I know with my business, like I have a real estate business. 99% of real estate agents are the exact same. They look the same way, they have the same pose, the same everything, the same training. And me, I'm like, great. That's what everyone is doing. I'm going to do the exact opposite. So my business is called Taco Street Locating. I have a taco themed real estate business. It's ridiculous, it's absurd, it's playful, it's fun. Granted, the service is really good. Like I've operationalized the hell out of it. And it's really effective and I'm better. My service is better than almost everyone else out there. But from the get-go, my brand stands out. No one else has a taco themed real estate business, so it stands out and it makes me less replaceable. It doesn't make me irreplaceable, but it slides me along the spectrum to a safer position.
Yeah, that's a good example of. I actually shared your business in my Discord group, and I was like, "This is an example of how just having fun branding for your company can go a long way. Like it's just I really like it. Like if I were to start a marketing agency over again, it would be some fun name. And it's just it just instantly gives you a brand. You know, like
Yeah.
um, burrito Amazon marketers. We love Amazon, but we also love burritos. So hey, we combine the two, and like here, it's nothing to do with that. But it's just a fun name.
Well, what happens is when you put your personality, your soul, and the unique markers of your character into the business, then that immediately sets it apart. Because there's no one like you. You are the only you. So that's like your existing, everyone gets a freebie monopoly. It's just their own identity. And how do you put your yourself, your identity, your energy into the business? And that's a non-obvious advantage that we have as small businesses. Because I can't do what Google does, I can't do what Amazon does, but they can't do what I do. And I have so much control over how much of a human experience my business is. And that's why people love small businesses, because they're human experiences. It's why people like craft beer. They like going to the local brewer where they can meet the guy making the beer and they can have that relationship. And the brewer can have this cool, fun tap room. Whereas all these major beer makers are they're just soulless and empty. So you have like a massive advantage as a small business because you can make it a more human business, and that's what
Mm-hmm.
people want. But if you
Mm-hmm.
try to do what all the big players are doing, then you're going to lose because you're trying to play the same game. You're trying to compete against someone you can't beat, and it's not going to work,
Yeah.
and you're going to lose. But
Yeah.
if you play the game that only you can play, then you win because no one else is playing that game.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Embrace the small business part of it. Make it a
Mm-hmm.
more human, more personality. Make it fun. Because that's why people
Mm-hmm.
like engaging with small business. Yeah, these are good business philosophies. Um,
Mm-hmm.
um, let's see. Any chapters that you want to dive into as we come up to the 30
Yeah,
minutes?
I can go on for hours, but you brought
Yeah.
up so one of the posts I put on this thing. I've got almost 4 years of this, so I got a lot to work with. But one I think chapter that's really important. You brought up the vampire's death spiral. So back to the part of the book where you are the biggest risk to your business. That chapter is vampire risk. So that's the question of how much do you take from your business? And a lot of people treat their businesses like piggy banks, and they're just extracting and taking everything to fund their lifestyles. And this usually isn't a problem when you're starting off because you're not making a lot of money and you're scrappy and bootstrapping and you're lean. But then you start making more money. And then you get the small, crappy apartment becomes a really nice, shiny apartment. The used car becomes a Tesla Model X. And the vacations become fancier. And then you have kids and a family. And then more and more you have to suck more and more resources from your business. And the risk is that you effectively bleed your business dry. Because the problem a lot of people have is the hedonic treadmill problem. It's easy to upgrade to first class, but people don't like to downgrade back. So what happens, you upgrade your lifestyle more and more and more when things are great, but when things stop being great, when business slows down, the lifestyle doesn't slow down along with it. And then the entrepreneur takes more and more resources from the business that's already struggling. And then the business doesn't have the resources it needs to survive. And then it's this death spiral. And it doesn't end well. So it's
Yeah.
be careful what you take from your business.
Yeah. This is one of the big entrepreneurial dilemmas. It's like, okay, business is doing good, our salary goes up, but no one likes to lower their salary because it's
Yeah.
directly correlated with our apartment and our lifestyle.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I've already experienced many versions of this, but it can happen on big scales, and it makes me think of
Yeah.
the stats about professional sports players, about how many of them actually go broke after they finish because they go from having a high income to none, and they don't want to downgrade their rent or whatever, their
Mm-hmm.
lifestyle. And so when that big income is gone, um, no one likes to downgrade, and so it's just your money runs
Yeah.
out.
Yeah. And that kind of segues into another major tension with us. It's the tension between ego and business. And it's one of the most important tensions we all have to deal with. It's when are we the right person for the job and when are we not? And this happened to a business that I was working alongside, we'll call it, where the CEO was this award-winning CEO, had all the titles, and his persona was growing and growing. His reputation was growing, and so he was growing the business extremely fast, trying to hyperscale it. And the company went bankrupt because he tried to hyperscale too fast. And you know who's not doing a podcast tour? The same guy who wrote multiple books about success and business and leadership. Haven't heard from him. Just kind of ghosted. Just went away. And I, in my suspicion is that his ego overcame his competency, and his ambitions became delusions of grandeur. And a lot of people had to find out about ego and their businesses the hard way.
Okay, great. Any other kind of chapters you want to get into, or anything else overall that you would like to get into, talk about? Yeah, coming up on the 90 minutes. Any other kind of chapters or things we should dive into next?
Oh man. Um, I think it's the one valuable one is the one after Vampire Risk. It's burnout because it
Mm-hmm.
asks the inverse question. It's not what do you take from your business, it's what does your business take from you. And everyone knows burnout. It's not a new concept. But I think what is a different take on it is how people, despite consciously knowing what burnout is, still winding up in that trap. And the problem with a lot of us is we don't treat ourselves as people. We treat ourselves as businesses instead. Because you look at an income statement or a balance sheet, you see all the numbers, but what you don't see are the negative emotions, all the time you spend, and the human cost never shows up on the numbers. So you have these scenarios where we treat ourselves not as humans but as businesses, and we're not tracking what the human cost to us is when we are running our businesses. So we spend our time and energy like crazy because it's not being tracked. And it's not so much the fast burn, and I think it's the scary one. Like the fast burn is the sprint, the product launch where you're working a ton of hours in a short period of time. That's, I think, straightforward. You take a break, kind of jog instead of sprint, and you're kind of good to go. To me, the interesting one is the slow burn. It's not the one that happens over a few days, but happens over months or years, where you just slowly start to run out of energy. And you're just doing the same thing over and over and over again. And the wins stop feeling like wins. But the losses feel as bad as ever. And it's this scenario where the highs of the highs of entrepreneurship are kind of gone, but the lows are still there, and the joy is gone, and the energy starts to die out. And that's when you're like, oh, I'm in a shitty relationship. But it's the one that happens slowly in the background. There's a type of risk I call middle risk, where the danger isn't at the extremes, but it's somewhere in the middle that's less obvious. It's more subtle. It's that 7 out of 10. To me, that's why the slow burn is the more dangerous one, because it happens quietly in the background without you noticing it. And then one day you notice it, you're like, uh-oh, this is a problem. I'm running out of energy and I don't know what to do about it. So that's why that's my take on burnout.
Yeah, I can totally see it. I mean, with entrepreneurship, but also like any old job as well. You know, you can
It's
get,
any relationship.
yeah, any relationship. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
any relationship. It's
Mm-hmm.
you know, because the just like a relationship, it's a fucking hassle to break it and to change and to go in a different
Mm-hmm.
direction, and no one wants to do that, and we put off those conversations. But
Mm-hmm.
this is making me think about my employees, my team's relationship as well. And something I'm just working on this week is having a quarterly work audit survey sent out automatically to all of our team members. Hey, what are you most excited about? What are you least excited about? What drains most of your energy? What do you think is the most efficient use of your time? How's your so it's like keeping myself and all the team on a just automated check-in every 3 months.
Yeah.
Make sure not only myself but all the team are still excited and not being drained by
Uh-huh.
any little thing.
Yeah. It's I've never done that kind of survey before, but what I think might be interesting questions are just directly asking the relationship question. What is your current relationship to this business, and what can make it a better one? And just allowing people to like show up in surprising ways. Because also the cost of not doing that, it's I think the protocol of what you're doing is asking that. I think is critical because everyone in your business has a relationship with the business, and it's best that you know when someone is like off center now rather than later when you're surprised. Um, but yeah, it's a relationship talk where it's
Mm-hmm.
how can we make this relationship better?
Yeah, that's a great one. I mean, I can even ask clients that. Like
Yeah.
I've been doing this thing recently this year where I'm not really client facing, but I'm the CEO, and every time a new client is onboarded inside of Slack, I'll just send them a personal DM. Hey, welcome aboard, blah 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 blah. Let me know if you have any questions, blah blah blah. And I'll send check-in messages, which actually, at at week 2 and then week 4 and then month 2, month 3, just like little small check-ins, create a human element to it. Okay, because they say in the agency world, like uh, people cancel or clients cancel 70% of the time. The reason is we don't feel like they cared. This was some survey I read, something like that. So I tell like all my account managers is like 70% of your job is relationship, 30% is results.
Yeah.
And so it's like you're in charge of relationship and results. It's like we're in the people business. We're in the relationship business.
Yeah.
So
and that's why a small agency like yours has power that a big one doesn't, because you have more ability to create these more human experiences in a way that a larger company doesn't.
Mm-hmm.
And then your team gets to show up in more interesting ways, in more human ways that aligns with who they are, and they get to bring more of themselves to the party. And I think that becomes this virtuous upward cycle.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, having that more human touch. And I'm going to steal that one. How can we make any, because what I currently ask, I'm like, at week 2, week 4, any suggestions or anything so far that would make your life easier? And it's like, these big open-ended questions, and let them say like kind of whatever's on their mind, because that's really just kind of what I want, is like what's on their mind. But that's a good one. Like any what's your current how are you feeling and everything, and anything we can do to make the relationship better. Just boom. Hey, what are your suggestions? Anything, and like let us know.
A lot of the most profound quote unquote business advice isn't business advice. It's human advice. Just how do we show up as better humans? One of the, I guess, parting takeaways is, one of my takeaways was this realization that I don't have business problems. I have emotional problems that manifest as business problems. And the better I am at understanding my emotions and addressing them, then the less nonsense I'm going to put in my business, and the better I will be able to resolve problems, or just not let problems happen in the first place.
Yep. It's all just a game of relationships, and we all have different relationships with our businesses. I'm going to keep using that term amongst my entrepreneurial friends, and I'm definitely going to share this episode with some of them. By the way, if for the 15 people that listen to the end, bro fist to you guys. Definitely like the video and share it with someone that might get value if you really liked it. Also, leave a comment. Hey, where are you listening from? That would be awesome. Let me know that you listened to the end. You're a bro for that one. Alexander, this was fun. Musing about business, life, relationship, because it's all one thing. It's all the same. It's just this life journey that we're on, and living this human experience. And at the end of the day, life is just a series of communications and relationships. So interesting.
Yeah, this is great. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, cool. Any where should people check you out to find more, or anything else you want to shout out?
Yeah, it's survivalfirstbook.com on Instagram. My tag is Alexander the Magnificent.
There you go. Alexander the Magnificent, business relationship author. Cool, man. Well, yeah, great chatting with you. I'll follow you on Instagram, and maybe we can follow each other there and be in touch.
Yeah, sounds awesome.
All right, cool.
I take you to the candy shop. I let you lick the lollipop. Go ahead, girl, don't you stop. Keep going till you hit